your parents were illegal immigrants and you were born here, you should be deported. You and your parents should be deported. The 14th Amendment does not apply to you. The 14th Amendment was about slavery. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment was about slavery, not illegal immigration. I said...
So like many of you have probably already heard the ruling on birthright citizenship in the United States of America has been upheld in the highest court in the land. They're basically saying that, hey, this is what the Constitution is saying and this is what we shall uphold. And you know, it's quite hilarious because on one end, they're trying to get rid of certain constitutional rights. And on another end, they're saying, well, this is the Constitution and we shall uphold this. But they're sending out confused messaging, and a lot of people are rightfully, upset and, unrightfully upset at the same time. Listen, I'm gonna give my 2 cents on this, as a Black American male in the United States of America, or once was in the United States of America. Listen, the reason why we've had such a influx of both legal and illegal migration is because of this, right? One argument people will say, well, this is why they've, pushed everybody into the black neighborhoods. This is why, the black vote is being diluted. This is why the demographics are changing all across America. And listen, I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong, because you're absolutely right. But here's the thing. Black Americans, you've been voting for your demise this entire time, right? You've been siding with the lefty Democrats who have been slowly but surely making sure that you will have no kind of voting authority in the future, and they've replaced you, and they've created this environment where you sympathize with the immigrants, you sympathize with the migrants, when truth be told, once they get over here, once they get into the country, they could care less about who fought for what, who did what, who is MLK, who is Malcolm X. They could care less about all of that. When they get over here, they're all about themselves and themselves only. And so, like I said, that rightfully so, people are upset, but at the same time, you can't pick and choose what you want to stand as constitutional rights for all. You can't pick this and then pick that. You can't pick and choose which one you want to get rid of and something else you want to keep, which, like I said, I understand. And birthright citizenship, from the history, has been used to grant the children of enslaved Africans, citizenship, because there was no other way for them to attain citizenship, and that was the only way for them, to attain citizenship. And it was specifically made for that Reconstruction era in that period of time in the United States of America. So listen, there's nothing to do at this point, right? A lot of the things that the Supreme Court and a lot of the things that people are trying to pass now, a lot of the things that people are trying to push across now, listen, man, it's too late. It's too late for all of that now, right? For you blackity blacks, listen, y'all should have been on this wave a long time ago, right? The white folks are trying to tell y'all that immigration weren't your friends. You should have hopped behind them. Listen, I know that, black and white folks, they got their little riff-raff and they got their little history amongst each other. But y'all should have hopped on that a long time ago, right? That's one thing the white man was right about, right? Was that immigration was going to forever change the demographics and the quote-unquote culture of America. Well, it's already done happened. Right? It's already done happened. Look at places like Texas, look at places like Georgia, look at places like California, look at places all over the West Coast. It's too late for all of that stuff, right? And many of you have also acknowledged that, drastic times calls for drastic measures, right? Well, I agree to a certain extent with that. And this is one of those times where they're sending a lot of things to the Supreme Court, hoping that a lot of these things, get overturned. But this is not one of those things. And I'll play devil's advocate too. I would say, let's just say if it did get overturned, right? Let's just say for argument's sake that it did get overturned, right? The population drop of America would be catastrophic, right? See, this is what a lot of people don't want to admit. This is what a lot of people don't want to acknowledge this. But if they were to overturn this and allow this, the population drop of America would be steep. Why? Well, because the quote unquote Americans who are already there, they're not producing babies, right? They're not replacing the population. Hell, they're barely in the workforce. So when you talk about the infrastructure jobs, when you talk about the maintenance jobs, when you talk about those sort of jobs that, the immigrants are doing, the migrants are doing, if you will, illegal, legal, what have you. When you talk about those people who are actually doing those jobs, the Americans are not doing those jobs, right? And they're not reproducing, they're not having families. When people from other countries come into America, guess what? They're having 2-3 kids, right? When the Indians come from India, right? They're popping out 2 or 3 children, 4 children, right? Don't let me get started on the Mexicanos, man. Don't let me, mi hombre, don't let me get started on the Mexicanos. The Mexicanos, they dropping 5, 6 easily, right? You're not even keeping up. They going straight to the paint with it, right? They dropping 10 pointers. They dropping 19. They're doing triple doubles, right? So the Mexicans, when they come over here, listen, they're having about 5 or 6 kids, right? What's the typical range for Americans, right? You probably only popping out 1 kid, right? If that, right? At most, you're probably popping out 2, right? White Americans are not popping out babies like that. Black Americans, listen, your women are aborting your children at catastrophic rates. So y'all are barely having children as it is too. So it's just a whole shit show. Y'all are not having kids. So if y'all are not having kids, the government has to do something about a population collapse. And I believe this is one of those situations where they saying, listen, we can't just get rid of basically our population base. That's what they saying. So listen, to some extent, immigration, both illegal and legal, is a business opportunity, right? It's a business model. And it's sad to put it like that, but you don't think the government understands how much of this work? Y'all don't think the government knew that illegal migrants were working in these fields and picking strawberries and all this type shit? You don't think they knew this whole time what was going on over these decades? It's just now that the Trump administration is in there that they just, oh my God, it's a bunch of illegals walking around here. No, they knew this entire time. Right? They knew the entire time. You just found out. I built a life. I built a family. I worked my hands raw to get here. And I'm not done. This is the escape blueprint. PFP life. A way out of the grind and into control. You'll learn how I stack cash, build systems, and reclaim time so you can live on your own terms. You will watch me maneuver and grind towards the life that I achieve for myself. And you can also do the same. Join the circle, join the Patreon, learn the steps, and protect your freedom. The Escape Blueprint, PFP Life. And guess what? Even though a lot of Americans understand this and they know this now, they're still not going to flock en masse to any one of these jobs, even when layoffs continue, even when AI and tech continue to take all of your jobs. You still are not going into any of these laborious jobs, any of these construction jobs, any of these farming jobs, picking strawberries and working in the 100-degree fields. Americans are still not going to go there. So the question is, what we really have to ask ourselves is, what is the real reason why so many Americans want, migration just to end? What is the real reason why so many Americans want, immigration to end when, quite frankly, it has been it has been our economic model for a long, long time, right? This has been happening way before I was born. This has been happening, probably before many of you was born. And this is also the economic business model for places like Europe. Hell, you can probably say much of the developed world use this same business model, right? They import the labor, right? They import the labor, bring them in, get them working the jobs that the current day citizens do not want to work, right? Allow them to bolster the economy, right? And then when push come to shove, when we go through these downturns in our economy, when everybody starts to complain, then the politicians get involved, and then they start acting like they weren't some of the ones who vouched for some of these things in the first place, right? So the United States is in a pickle, man. It's in a pickle because there's, like I keep saying, there's a lot of, hypocrisy going on. There's a bunch of hypocrisy going on. There's a bunch of, well, let's get rid of this constitutional right and we're going to uphold this constitutional right. What I've said before, and I've said this a long time ago, America's going to get to the point where it's not going to be the America that you or I knew, right? There's going to be a lot of changes, and quite frankly, they're trying to develop it and turn it into a brand new country, right? The America of yesterday no longer works for today, right? The America of yesterday no longer works for today. America can afford for all of these illegals and, migrants, and then depending on which skill set we're talking about, because we do have high skilled immigration and we do have low skilled immigration. So it depends on which aisle that you're talking about. And they all separately have individual arguments in itself. But all in all, right, America can no longer afford to hold, up this migration model, right? America can't even afford to uphold its own citizens, right? I've read recently that even by 2032, Social Security is going to be null and void, right? Which this is something that y'all should have already known. This is something that been in the works. I read about this in high school, that they were saying that, listen, Social Security is going to run out by the time, we get of the age. Hell, Social Security just ran out. Just get it through your head that Social Security is gone. Right? Get it through your head now that Social Security is gone. So all of you expats, who ship themselves overseas using your Social Security, I hope y'all prepared. I hope that you plan on doing something else, to bring in money, because that Social Security is going to be done, right? And mainly because, one, jobs are being eradicated, right? Jobs are being eradicated, and then we have an aging population. And then the younger population, they're not populating, right? They're not having children like their forefathers or their grandparents or even their parents, right? They're not even enthusiastic about popping out babies. So when you have an aging population and then when you have a weakening workforce, right, who are not even, in the labor market. And for those of you who don't know how Social Security work, or Medicaid, Medicare, how this stuff works, right? The newer generations pay for the older generation, right? And I didn't find that out until I was an adult, right? I thought that we were paying for our own Social Security. I thought that we were paying for our own funds But little did I know as I got older, because guess what? They don't teach you this in high school. They don't teach you this, growing up in grade school. Little did I know once I got older that we pay it forward, right? So the system is set up to where, we have to work for the older generation. And listen, it also works for those 401ks. It also works for, keeping the system intact, growing the older generations 401k. That's why they keep on telling us, hey, y'all need to go and work, right? Y'all need to get back into the workforce. Y'all need to get in the workforce. You need to do this, you need to do that. Why? Because it bolsters their economy, right? And yes, I said their economy because guess what? Boomers and even some of Gen X, they stay in an entirely different economy, especially if they capitalize on what we call the American dream now, right? Their 401ks are bolstered, their investments are, doing very well, right? And you can attribute that to the generations, the younger generations, continuously working if they do work, right? Buying into what we call the American dream and continue to bolster that quote unquote economy that no longer exists for the younger generation. So listen, man, I don't know if it's a win, depending on how you look at it. You may think it's a win for the birthright citizenship. You may think it's an L for the birthright citizenship. All in all, right? All in all, it's in the Constitution. Right? All in all, it's in the Constitution. And I don't think we're going to get anywhere. I don't think we're going to get anywhere by eradicating, what the Constitution actually stands for, right? The Constitution clearly states what it states. And I think that we should do everything in our power to uphold what the Constitution actually states, even though it was a different time, right? Even though it was a different time, even though it was created for something specific during that time period, I think that we should uphold that. And there are plenty of things that we could be working on, plenty of things that, are actually attributing to the pros and cons in America that we could be otherwise fighting instead of trying to rip down constitutional rights. Because let me tell y'all, like I tell y'all all the time, once you start ripping down one, the rest will fall. So be aware of that. And listen, man, the after pill is the ideology. The escape blueprint is the framework. And PFP life is how you should live, in purpose, in freedom, and in power. Come over to the Patreon if you want to know exactly what I'm doing. If you want to know exactly how I'm able to do the things that I'm doing. If you want to know exactly how I'm creating the apps and the dashboards, getting them all spiced up to get ready to sell to entrepreneurs, get ready to sell to influencers, so on and so forth. Come and join the Patreon. And if you want to join a high intensity group full of like-minded individuals, come over and join the inner circle. But you can only get through the Patreon. We will have our first networking event in Cartagena, Colombia, at the end of this year. We will be celebrating New Year's out there. So come over to the Patreon, come and join the inner circle and join like-minded individuals, and we will get you to where you need to be. I'll see you on the Patreon, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. I built a life, I built a family, I worked my hands raw to get here, and I'm not done. This is the escape blueprint, PFP life, a way out of the grind and into control. You'll learn how I stack cash, build systems, and reclaim time so you can live on your own terms. You will watch me maneuver and grind towards the life that I achieve for myself, and you can also do the same. Join the circle, join the Patreon, learn the steps, and protect your freedom. The escape blueprint, PFP life.